Hello, welcome to the Isla Paradiso Bunch, episode 77. Carrots here. Episode 77 is mostly set in France, in Champs-les-Sums. However, there will be a trip to Egypt at some stage where they will complete parts of the main story. They'll live in the castle, off in the distance, away from the main part of town. Our travellers today are Craig and Judy, and at this point, they're still back at home in Isla Paradiso, and they're about to leave for France. Craig is going to do most of the work, but Judy's there to assist. Craig is a human young adult, and Judy is a young adult witch. In this episode, we're going to begin working towards the tombs under the Nectary. Since my videos last about 30 minutes, and it took me about 5 hours, in real life hours, to do those 2 tombs, I don't think we'll get it all done in this episode. But we'll get started. The tombs we're going to be doing are the tombs of Jean Necteaux and his wife Isael. Your visa level for France needs to be at level 3 to get this adventure, and you must have done lots of other adventures. The adventure chain begins with the opportunity: Nectar research assistance needed. I am in need of a research assistant for my evaluation of nectar. Potential applicants should be in excellent physical condition, should possess a knack for adventure, and of course an appreciation for nectar. Please speak to Jolene Montague if interested. It's the start of the trip, and that's Jolene rushing off to the Nectary where she works as the nectar merchant. And there's Craig. He's arriving just as she gets to work. She just barely made it on time. And here Craig is about to offer his assistance to Jolene. Jolene listens to Craig, and then she says, yes, you seem like you'll do. I'm trying to uncover some of the lost secrets of nectar making, ideas that have been lost to us for centuries. I hope you're up to the task before us. Then she tells him what she wants him to do. The first task in the back of the cellar. It is a little known fact that the Nectary here in town is centuries old, and the cellars below date back to those times. There are some truly ancient bottles down there. If I had just one of those bottles, I could break down its ingredients and uncover so much about the lost art of nectar making. Go to the cellar and find a bottle of nectar that is at least 5,000 years old. Back then, they used to store them in chests, so be sure to check any you find. Take this keystone. It should get you into some of the older sections of the cellars. Craig headed down the steps that are near the nectar making machines, so he wasn't clear in his own mind as to what he's going to have to do when he got there. So he stood there at the foot of the steps, and Judy came down and she stood with him, and they surveyed what they could see from where they stood. There was a large open area that was well lit, and lots of other Sims were wandering around in there. And there was lots of nectar racks. Some of the nectar in the racks could be tasted, and some of it could be taken. I never allow my Sims to taste the nectar. They always have to have a party when they taste nectar. We haven't got time for parties. We've got to go find some tombs. But first, we've got to find a very old bottle of nectar that's inside a treasure chest behind a locked door that needs a keystone to open it. And Craig has the keystone in his pocket. And there's another end of the cellar in behind the steps that they came down. And there's a dive well. It's all very dark in here. It's a bit scary. That looks like a doorway there. Maybe somebody should try the dive well. Here comes Judy. There's a nectar making machine there as well in the background. I thought all the nectar machines were upstairs. So she dived into the dive well. I wonder what she's finding while she's down there. Will it take her to a place? Is there a switch down there that'll reveal a hidden door? No, she's come back up, and I think the only thing that happened was she found a bit of treasure. She just got all wet for nothing. Let's go and see what's in that door that goes into the darkness. And those posts there with all the leaves and flowers, they look interesting. So this room's got barrels and some ceramic objects, and oh look, there's another. That door is a doorway, and there's lots of nectar stored in there. I think Judy should go in there and see what she can see. We won't let her taste any nectar though, because that will take a long time. Sims do like to party whenever they take a sip of nectar. Oh, there's a note on the wall. Maybe she should go and read that. As soon as she started reading that note on the wall, a hidden door opened. The note said, "Inspection certificate. This cellar has been certified safe and structurally stable. Next inspection required. 1872. Oh dear. Maybe they have other ways of doing inspections, or is that cellar likely to collapse on them when they go in there? That's a scary thought. Judy peeked through the open door and she saw a long narrow room with a doorway at the end. But she had a feeling there was more to this room, so she searched along one wall to see if there were any hidden doors in it, and she found one. Suddenly it occurred to Craig that Judy had been gone quite a while and she was being very quiet, so he thought he'd better go see what she was up to. Judy was just focusing on finding that hidden door and opening it. She wasn't even thinking of what Craig was doing. Of course, this is Craig's adventure, and he is the one who has to find all of the items that need to be found to solve the adventure, otherwise it'll fail. But of course Judy's his assistant, and she is assisting quite well because this is just the very beginning. They haven't even found the room yet where he can put the key into the keyhole to get into the room where the object that he needs to collect is going to be found. Judy pushed the 2 pushable statues. The third one could be pushed as well, but she's not going to bother with that. And the nectar that's in those nectar racks can't be taken, and so she's not going to taste it, so we'll leave it where it is. But there is one bottle of nectar that she can take on the pedestal right in the middle of that room, and she'll take that one. Looking through the door, you can see there is a rubble pile that needs clearing. Craig better do that because he's the one with Pangu's axe in his inventory. Craig was about to enter that long narrow room, and he decided to ignore the door that Judy had opened in the wall and went down to the end of the room where he found a gold bar and a broken pot that he collected. Then he went in through the door that Judy had opened and collected a pile of ancient coins. Then he cleared the rubble pile which led into another room. These rooms are so tiny that quite a few parts of this tomb exploration we're going to have to be looking at them from above. At least it'll give you a better idea of the structure of the tomb if you want to do it yourself. Thought it was interesting that there's dried grass growing inside that room. Craig is searching for another hidden door. Looks like he found it. Yep, there it is. And there's another room with grass growing. There's probably some treasures in this room. There's a rack full of nectar. Hopefully he can take that. I might have to look from above there. There is a stack of ancient coins that he can pick up. He's got the ancient coins, and now he's gone for the nectar, and he's found there's a hole in the floor that he's digging around in to see if he can get some more treasure. But perhaps, yes, it is a floor switch. It's opened another hidden door. I think he just picked up a dropper stone there as well. Now, thanks to that hole in the floor, he's found a whole new hallway. As he walks through the door, he sees to his left that that door will lead into the long hallway that he first entered. So the 3 rooms that he and Judy have just completed were really only there for extra treasure. So now he's headed down this new hallway and he's found another hidden door. Fortunately, most of the hidden doors in these tombs we're about to do are found by triggering a switch somewhere, so there won't be very much of time spent on them searching manually like Craig just did. Of course, that doesn't make it quicker to get through the tombs when you're doing it yourself, because you've still got to search all of the walls for hidden doors, because some of them do need the sim to open them, and others you could miss. You can't tell there's a door there, it just doesn't show up when you search it by clicking along the walls. And if you miss the switch that opens the door, you never know that the door even exists. These tombs are definitely not designed for a beginner. You need to know a little bit about tombs before you could hope to get through them and find what you're looking for. So he's just found a new treasure room. It looks like a small room with a pile of ancient coins and a treasure chest. In that treasure chest he finds the French signet of the Nectary cellars and 2 money bags. Now that French signet of the Nectary cellars is part of the tomb collection that I'm chasing, and they already did have that one. It's just that we've started a brand new save and he needed to find that again, but it won't be added to the tomb collection collection, because back in Isla Paradiso they already have that one. Now he's come into a large room with the door that was already open, and that doorway was next to the end of the hallway where he just found that small treasure room with the signet of the French tomb collection in it. And this is the room where he can put his keystone into the sparkling keyhole that he's been looking for, get access to the next part of his adventure. He's collected some nectar out of some of the treasure chests, but we'll get Judy to come in here to make sure he got it all. She'll collect any extras that he didn't do. And there he is. He's found his way to the target treasure chest. The old bottle of nectar he's after is in that chest, and he is the one who must collect it. If Judy gets it, game's over. So it's opened 2 more hidden doors. But he's got to go back now and hand in that bottle of nectar before we get to the next part of this adventure. Before he heads back upstairs to hand in that bottle of nectar, Craig has a quick look around and he discovers that there's more key stones to be used, more holes in the wall, and a mysterious door which is open but the hallway's all dark. Craig decides to go and search for a bit more of the nectar before he runs off to hand in the bottle he's found. But eventually he gets the idea that it'd be better to just leave it to Judy. While Craig makes his way back to the upstairs area to report in and hand over the bottle of nectar that he found that was 5,000 years old or older. Once Judy's looked through all of the chests, she'll go into the next room and have a look around. Here we go. Craig has now made his way upstairs. Craig has just completed the legendary Nectary cellars. But don't rest there, Craig, as there are new adventures to be had. And when he hands over the nectar he's found, Jolene's very happy and she says, "Very intriguing. As I said, many of those cellars are very ancient and almost no one ever goes down there. I'm sure the cellars are filled with secrets such as the one you just discovered. Nevertheless, I'm quite interested in what you have found. Please head back down there and see if you can learn anything more." It looks like the hint is he's going to have to stick his hand in that hole in the wall and see what he can find in there. Meanwhile, Judy's going to investigate that intriguing looking dark doorway. As she approaches, the lights come on in the hallway that is beyond the door. She can't resist. She must go in and see what's down there. It's just one long hallway. Not all that long, and it comes to a bend. And she just goes along a little bit further. What's she going to find? Ah, a floor switch. She'd better stand on that. Hidden door. Wonder where that leads. More treasure? We'll see. Have a look. Oh look, it comes out in front of the steps that they walk down when they've been upstairs in the Nectary. It's a shortcut. It's between those posts with the flowers and the leaves all around them. That's good. That means it's going to be a bit quicker for them to get in and out from now on. It was worth finding. It'll make it a lot quicker for them to go upstairs to the Nectary whenever they need to, and then back down to where they need to get to do the work of looking through the tomb. Craig's now ready to put his hand in that hole in the wall, but it's late and they're both very tired, so there's nowhere in the tomb that we've found so far where they can sleep. But there are beds upstairs in the top floor of the Nectary. So I think it's time for Judy and Craig to go up and spend the night at the Nectary. They won't go home to their castle. They'll just sleep in the beds that are available to them. While Judy and Craig are sleeping soundly at the Nectary, the wild horses are near their favourite waterhole, and the white unicorn has joined them. We don't often see the white unicorn in France. I usually come across the black unicorn. The wild horses are all sleepy, but the unicorn's wide awake. It's just come out to play. I do hope Judy and Craig are enjoying their sleep. The wild horses are trying to enjoy theirs, but the unicorn's disturbing them a little. The rainbow shows when he gets a drink. or eats some grass. I think it might be about time to say good night to the unicorn. I'm sure Craig and Judy will be almost ready to wake up now. So bye-bye, Mr. Unicorn. We'll see you tomorrow night, maybe. Craig and Judy were ready to wake up. They needed to have a bath and they also needed to eat breakfast. Fortunately, they've each slept in a bedroom at the Nectary that has an ensuite. So there's no shower, but they can have a bath in the tub, have a good soak. They've got some shower in a can and lots of dried food in their inventories, so they won't need to come back here again unless they get really tired during their time in the tomb. So Judy's going off to get her bath. We'll leave them to have their baths in private. We don't need to watch them getting clean. Downstairs there is a small kitchen, but this being a community lot, there's no stove. So all they can do is get themselves a quick meal out of the fridge. And they've both chosen to get some cereal. I think their biggest problem at the moment is they're both starving hungry. And next to the kitchen there's an area where there are tables where they can sit together and eat their breakfast. And then we'll get them back to work because Craig's got to stick his hand in that hole in the wall to find out what is going on there. But it's still early in the day and they'll chat while they finish eating. There's pink hearts, so maybe there's something going on between Craig and Judy. Don't know about that. But they plan their day and then they're off for another day's adventure in the huge tomb below. At this point, they've got no idea how big that tomb is or what they're going to have to face. Eventually, that fateful moment arrives. They can't put it off any longer. Craig has just got to go down there, take a deep breath, and stick his hand in that hole in the wall and feel around in there until hopefully he finds something that doesn't do something terrible to him. Judy's just thanking her lucky stars that it's not her that has to do that. Craig enters the chamber with the 3 holes in the wall. A strange breeze blows through the chamber, barely audible above the sound of the moving air. Seems to be a voice whispering. The 3 greatest possessions of the pharaohs, stolen and never returned. They glimmer and sparkle with the radiance of life. Craig found a hidden switch and activated it. Creepy. Jolene Montague should be told about this. Craig looks around the room. Nothing seems to have changed. He wonders what that switch was all about. He better go upstairs, tell Jolene what's just happened. As Craig turns to go upstairs to talk with Jolene, he wonders about what that voice had said about the 3 stolen glimmering objects. I hope Jolene has some clues, because Craig sure doesn't. But when Craig finally got up to speak to Jolene Montague, he was sadly disappointed. First thing she said when he told her about that creepy room and voice was, "Ick, I'm not sure I'd be sticking my hand into a hole in the wall, let alone 3 of them, but I'm glad you did. These riddles must mean something, but I'm not really sure what. It is something to ponder, that's for sure." Then she thinks about it for a bit and says, "How about a quick follow-up? I cannot help you decipher the riddle, but I have a hunch it's important. Please, you must help me. Go speak with Bertha Giard. Bertha Giard has been doing extensive research on the history of the town and might have an idea what it means." It's very early in the morning. The sun has just come up, but Craig sets off in the hope that Bertha is at work. So he heads off to find Bertha Giard to see if she can shed any light on the issues with the riddles that they've uncovered from that creepy room and the hole in the wall. Craig eventually tracks her down in the relic store. Looks like she's the relic merchant at the moment. No wonder she's doing research. She's interested in relics. Craig finally comes across Bertha in her shop and he asks her the question. But she doesn't know the answer, but she does have a suggestion. To Egypt. Bertha says to Craig, "I have not heard a good riddle in some time, so your presence delights me. Let me think a minute. Pharaohs, sparkles. It sounds to me like you may be searching for some kind of gems. I have a good friend in Egypt who is something of an amateur Egyptologist and should be able to help you. My friend has been studying insects of late. I highly suggest you collect some local insects and bring them with you just in case. I'd say 5 Sherembo beetles would be just fine. Craig set off to collect 5 Sherembo beetles. Fortunately, the first beetle was quite close to where he was, so didn't have far to go. It can take a day or 2 or 3 to find 5 beetles, depending on the beetle supply. Generally, when you're looking for insects, all you can ever find are Sherembo beetles, but when you're looking for the 5 beetles, they're very scarce. At least in map view, you do see where they spawn. And when you find them, he doesn't always manage to catch them. Sometimes they bite him and escape, just like that one just did. And sometimes they spawn in places that he can't get to. It's taken a long wait, but the 4th beetle has finally appeared and he's caught it. And this is the 5th one. He's finally got it, and it's after dark, but he's got his beetle. He's got his 5 beetles. Now, Craig and Judy can head off to Egypt to continue their adventure. On their arrival in Egypt will tell us if this time the adventure is going to drop out or if they are going to actually be able to continue. So we'll send them home first, just so that we will reduce the risks of having issues with the game. And that's the house in Isla Paradiso, where they came from, and now they're travelling to Egypt. It's always very stressful at this point with this particular adventure, because in my experience, 9 times out of 10 over the last 12 months or so, it has dropped out. There's only once I've been able to do it with this pair and actually got through. And this, unfortunately, is not that time. So from here on in, we're probably going to have a different nectar merchant. Sorry about that, but there is nothing that I can do about it other than keep playing over and over again until I get the same nectar merchant again. Fortunately, I have some video recorded from another game where it did succeed. I'm wondering if them have their own house when they get to visa level 3 has got anything to do with it, because the only time when I didn't get them that house and made them stay in the base camp in France is the only time that this has actually worked for me. But that could just be a coincidence. I've only been trying for about a year, maybe 2 years, to get this to work with this pair of Sims. The story continues. Craig has found Nectar. She is the friend of the Sim from France who sent him to find the beetles to start with. Fortunately, Craig had caught the beetles before leaving France and had brought them with him to Egypt. Entomology. Nectar says, "Yes, I would be willing to help you. First, you need to help me. Bring me 5 Sherembo beetles from France for my research. You are clearly a man of travel, so that won't be so hard for you, will it?" Craig happens to have 5 beetles in his inventory, so he delivers the insects. Nectar takes them and says, "Ah, I see you've come prepared. Thank you for your help." History tells us that centuries ago, Jean Necteaux lived in Al-Samhara, Egypt, for some time before running back to France with the Pharaoh's daughter, whom he had fallen in love with. According to myth, when they left, they stole 3 mystical gems that were going to be used to make a new crown for the Pharaoh. Perhaps these are the gems of your riddle. Go, speak with the Al-Samhara relic merchant, Mohammed Taimur, who follows the less than wholesome markets on these things and may know something. So off Craig runs to find Mohammed Taimur to see what he can tell him. It turns out this location merchant is rather a slippery fellow, and poor Craig spends a lot of his time chasing after the chap, trying to catch up with him to glean information about the gems. Lucky Craig was fit, because otherwise he would have been out of breath. He did finally realise that the merchant was heading for his shop, the relic shop in the market. So Craig just let him go, and then he waited a while until the merchant had a chance to get to the market, because Craig was pretty sure he'd catch up with him easily there. Finally, Craig caught up with Mohammed Taimur and introduced himself and mentioned what he was doing, and the relic merchant replied, "Ah, yes, the legendary gems of the Pharaoh Anacrus. The legends list a sapphire more blue than the desert sky, a ruby redder than blood, and an emerald more green than the eyes of a cobra. Yes, we have much to discuss." Then Muhammad Taimur continues. The legendary gems of the Pharaoh Amakrus's crown. The legends speak of a sapphire more blue than the sky of the clearest day, a ruby a deeper red than fresh blood, and an emerald more piercing green than the eyes of a cobra. I will help you find them. They would be truly great treasures to own. As luck will have it, I believe I know where the ruby of Saqqara is. Before I dispense this information, I require a simple donation to my private holdings of 2 relics worth at least 200 simoleons. That is reasonable, yes? Craig had a quick look and he realised he already had the relics that the relic merchant wanted, so he handed them over and he got another request from the relic merchant, a little too sleazy. I was able to locate the ruby while you were gone. Seeing as how the ruby didn't come cheap, if you could bring me 1 more relic worth at least 500 simoleons, I would be grateful. I may have a few for sale right here in my store if you wanted to purchase it. This put Craig into a spot of bother because he didn't have a relic worth 500 simoleons or more. He scratched his head and thought about it for a while, and then he realised that Judy might have one. So he checked, and she did. So he returned to the shop and he was able to give the relic merchant the 500 simoleon relic that he asked for. To France. Here is the ruby of Saqqara, as promised. I believe the other gems are in France. Myth states that the sapphire of the crescent moon lies in the tomb of Jean Necteaux's wife, Isael, who is buried near her husband. I suggest you return to France and speak to Ginny Lambert. So all that's left for Craig to do now in Egypt is to run back to Judy at their base camp and make sure she's okay, and then set sail for home. And this will be the end of the video. At the beginning of the next video, we will be in France, and Craig will be reporting to the nectar merchant with the sapphire, and we will see what happens from there on in. We're going to finally get into the big tomb, the first of the 2 big tombs. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see the next episode and go through the huge tombs under the Nectary, well then, if you haven't already subscribed, it would be a good idea to subscribe and ring the bells so that you are notified when I load the next episodes. So Craig's heading off now to the base camp where he's going to meet up with Judy, and then they will travel home to Isla Paradiso and have a rest. And we'll pick them up in France when we start the next episode, and they will be going through the tomb of Isael, who is the wife of Jean Necteaux, and they'll be searching for the sapphire. So bye-bye for now, and happy simming.